whole notion of geography of opportunity, if you will, is really the key, and the geography of opportunity is driven by where you live.
Housing segregation impacts every other opportunity that people have access to. It affects what type of schools you'll get to go to, what type of grocery stores you're going to have in your neighborhood, whether you live near places with lots of toxins or not, whether you have lots of parks in your neighborhood. These are real effects on real people, and the reason that real estate agents say location, location, location is they're not selling you a house, they're selling you a community.
While concentrations of affordable housing in poor and minority neighborhoods tend to cut people off from opportunity, a federal housing voucher program offers low-income recipients the freedom to choose housing in other areas.
It's a program that the federal government runs with states and localities that provides people a rental subsidy that allows them to access housing in the private markets.
Housing choice subsidies can reduce concentrations of poverty. They offer recipients the opportunity to find housing in any area as long as the subsidy covers the rent. But exercising that choice is often extremely difficult.
Source of income discrimination is quite prevalent in the housing industry. It is discrimination based on an individual and family's source of income, like their family might receive a voucher. In the last few years, in the last decade, we've really seen an increase in states and localities beginning to have laws that say you cannot discriminate based on the source of income.
Even though New York City prohibits discrimination against people using housing subsidies, many housing providers still do so.
I have AIDS, so when I don't have housing, it makes it so difficult for me to take my medication on time.
Housing is key for anyone living with HIV and AIDS because where they live needs to be clean and safe because that home is their lifeline to healthy living.
HASA is a part of HRA, the Human Resources Administration. It stands for HIV/AIDS Service Administration, and it helps us find housing if we're homeless. It helps us with Medicaid and medical assistance.
In New York City, a great number of people living with HIV and AIDS are dependent on a housing subsidy to help pay for rent. And when they go out into the rental market with that housing subsidy and are discriminated against, they're told very specifically that they are not going to be shown apartments that everyone else is shown.
I thought that because I was able to afford up to $1,180 in an apartment, that finding an apartment wouldn't be that difficult because since HASA subsidized the rent, it was going to be a definite rent payment to the landlord. So, I mean, who doesn't want guaranteed rent money? I would try to get out of the realtors first that they had a one-bedroom apartment available. And once they told me, oh yeah, sure, we have a one-bedroom apartment available. And then when I say, okay, well, I have a HASA subsidy, suddenly there are no more one-bedroom apartments available. They even said to me, well, some of our apartments are for regular people and some are for program people.
The apartments that people here in New York living with HIV and AIDS are given an opportunity to rent are the apartments that no one else wants to rent. And that means that they're often moving into apartments that are not healthy places for them to be living.
None of the apartments I've seen were finished apartments. They were always apartments in the state of repair.
What they're being shown is often very substandard housing. It may not have even operating water or heat. It may not be in good physical condition.
It seemed that it was all that was available for me to move into. You know, when somebody shows you crap, you try to take the best of the crap.
Keith finally settled for a one-bedroom apartment in Brooklyn, but when he went back with the keys to move in, he couldn't believe what he saw.
There was roaches in the kitchen and roaches on the floor as if an exterminator came in and a lot of the roaches died. There was somebody's clothes in the apartment. The stove was not connected to the wall. Actual outlet sockets was melded onto the floor. the place was in no condition to be inhabited. So I spoke with the closer and told the closer about the condition of the apartment, and she minimized it and said, well, all you have to do, Mr. Short, is sweep the roaches up. It affected my self-esteem in a big way because I thought that, well, maybe I am a piece of crap. Maybe this is what I deserve.
People respond very differently to discrimination. Some people respond by internalizing it, concerns that they did something to cause it, that there might be something they could do differently the next time to prevent it.
I thought that it was just a way of doing business. I thought that was the norm, and actually it was the norm, but the norm was illegal. And